And truly that song represents exactly what our pathway is. That if we come into this community and when we commit to its spiritual practices, its principles, we become willing to be revolutionaries, if you will. So springboarding off of last week and the idea of declaring our independence from a thought system that no longer serves us, the thought system of the world that actually does focus on what is wrong, that actually does create and make from a fearful mindset. Now, the reading said love doesn't spin and toil and get nowhere. And at one point it said, has fear ever made what love has made? And the answer, of course, is no, but it can sure put up a whole show, can it not? And it can sometimes be pretty convincing that it's real. The things that come from a fearful mindset. And yet what we say here is that we know that what we focus on increases. We also know that what we resist persists. And so we have this opportunity to focus wholeheartedly, being wholly committed on love and that love consciousness and that God consciousness, so that it may correct our vision, so that we may see clearly and begin to see beyond appearances that can be so convincing. And that takes something more than what I, as a human, I, as a personality, can do. I must align with that God consciousness, with that divine identity within, with that love intelligence. And it's a practice to actually walk this way. It really becomes something that it's a requirement that we come together actually in spiritual community so that we can encourage one another, so that we can hold one another's hands when it feels like we can't see the truth or we can't see beyond appearances. You know, our vision talks about spiritually awakening. And sometimes spiritually awakening can actually be challenging, like it can be disconcerting. Anytime we do any kind of change in community and in our lives, it throws us off a little bit. And so when we choose to change our mind, when we choose to change our perspective, we're a little off balance sometimes. I think of it like I'm dancing the waltz. I'm dancing the waltz. I've got the waltz down pretty well. And then all of a sudden, something comes in, somebody comes in and starts another dance, perhaps a jig. I mean, something completely different. And I just can't get in the groove or the move. And that's what happens when things shift, when things change, when the world seems to be telling us something contradictory to what we speak of and hear. And sometimes when we awaken and we see the world of appearances, it can be depressing, can it not? It can shake us up a little bit. Sometimes there's a grieving process involved in observing the illusion and delusions that feel so real and convincing. And so I begin this way to say, let's be patient with ourselves. Let's be kind and gentle with ourselves. But let us not forget that something is happening by virtue of the fact that we come together here. And so when I opened and I talked about unity principles and practices and this pathway of life, I talked about how I alluded to how it transformed my life. And I was thinking about that as I was approaching this conversation. And I've said this before, that my former life is unrecognizable. My former life, who I was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, is nearly unrecognizable. And what I realize that even now, I'm transforming. Like that transformation, once you commit to it fully, it's continuous. It's continuously deepening and evolving, and I think of it as a spiral upward. And that's kind of where I believe we are. I believe that we are in that place as a country, as a community, as, oh, thank you. I was worried my zipper was down or that something really horrible was happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mary's coming up. And I know I'm not supposed to point out that somebody is coming up, but I really was. I'm like, God, I hope I'm together here, and because that's part of what she does. She helps me all the time, so thank you. Anyway, yeah. So my former life being unrecognizable, and that it's fun to look back and to see how it shifts and changes. And I had a long talk with my sister who's in recovery and is in a spiritual practice, and we were talking because we were both triggered by something in our lives. And it triggered a memory of where we grew up, and kind of traumatic, a way of being that gave us messages about ourselves, maybe that we weren't enough or that we were unworthy or something, other than how God created us to be. And nobody said, here, take this idea, and now this is the way you must be. The interesting thing is that she and I perceive and interpret the same happening, the same event, the same condition completely differently. And it manifested in our lives in different ways. And yet, because both of us, individually in our pathways, made a decision to turn our life and our will over to the care of God, made a decision to be about transforming our lives, made a decision not to believe that we're the victim of the world and that things are happening to us, but made a decision that somehow in some way we were causal agents in our lives. Somehow, in some way, we could bring about positive change in our lives. And we both learned that somehow, in some way, it had to do with a consciousness that was different than where the condition came from. We had to rise in consciousness. For some of us, we call it God consciousness. For some of us, we confer with a love intelligence. For some of us, we believe it to be the natural laws or nature. It doesn't matter. The idea is that there's a higher way of viewing life in the world, and that when we avail ourselves of it, something shifts and changes in our way of seeing that impacts the world. And so the way things work, the way that I have learned to work, I grab onto little books and big books and I devour them. And I'm still on this book. We studied this abundance book, the little green book, last year. And I carry it around with me. You can see it's kind of been in water and it's been dropped in the ocean and bathtubs and all kinds of places. And there's this page that I just adore and I go to all the time, and I wanted to share it with you, but it speaks our principles. It's so simple. It's the Hermetic principle that is ageless, that is timeless. As above, so below. As within, so without. And it says that is the law. That our world of experience is a reflection of what's within us, our thoughts, our feelings, and what we focus upon. And that when we make the decision to turn to God consciousness, and practice waking up, that's what we're doing. The song said, wake up, wake up. And we wake up to the awareness of the presence, a presence, however you define it, and that presence of God is within you. It's not separate from you. Basic unity, 1 and 2 principle. God is, I am. And God is within us, and that presence is everywhere. And that the more that we focus upon it, the more it infills us. And then we deepen our understanding. So it begins with awareness and then understanding. That the understanding that spirit is our source, our substance, our supply. And I've added solution for everything. Nothing falls outside this as our substance, our source, our supply, our solution. It means that you're not that for me. My bank account isn't that for me. The ways that I identify in the world are not that source for me. There's only one. How much simpler could it be that there's only one? Unity. And then the deeper our understanding of this, the more that it carves into our neural pathways, into our very body, these pathways, these ideas, these understandings. And then finally, we arrive at a spiritual consciousness of knowing. It's a knowing of the presence of God because we've aligned our mind and heart, and it drops in like intuition. And guess what? We become the channel. We become the channel for God, for God's love. We become God's channel in the world so that we can really see how love heals all things by being that conduit. But our responsibility is to focus on that and to begin to forgive and release everything else unlike it. And you see, it's a practice. We practice every day. Where are the shadows in my life? Where am I arguing with what is? Where do I want to make something or somebody wrong? What do I find unacceptable? And then judge. So this is the pathway. And it says here that this God consciousness then becomes our complete fulfillment. And when we focus on it, we feel fulfilled. Has anybody had a moment of feeling fulfilled by everything I'm saying? Because I know it's not foreign. Raise your hand, look around. Everybody, you are walking this path that I always say, take note. Take note. Because to the world, this could be called a tiny mad idea. To the world, it's counterintuitive to the way that we are told to be successful in the world. We're told to be the doer and the maker. And what we're shifting in is being the being, the presence, and allowing that presence to go before us, to make the crooked places straight, to whisper in our ear, to hold our hand, and at times to carry us. But we court it continuously. And so that's the practice. And so this tiny mad idea is a Course in Miracles term. And in A Course in Miracles, the tiny mad idea is the idea of separation. And the idea of separation from God or from Creator. And what happens is we've created a fearful world, thinking that we could be other than what God created us to be. That's the tiny mad idea that led to a crazy, mad world of delusions and illusions that are made by a fearful mind that judges. And I say, an equally tiny mad idea is that love heals all things, that love embraces all things, and that it accepts all things, and in so doing, in this embrace, it heals all things. And why would that be? It's because we are love, and that's our divine nature. This is our return home. And so birthing the mind of Christ is the lesson that we're in, lesson 7. And some might say, well, I don't need to be birthing what already is. Do I? Do I just need to awaken to it? Do I just need to remember? Do I need to just recognize? What it says in the book is this: the whole of creation is now experiencing a growing power, a movement, a momentum that must carry the mind from which creation springs to a new level. I remember when I came to this community, I kept sharing with you, I love new thought, I love unity teaching, but I feel like we've only taken it part of the way. And that part of the way is that we turned from the appearances of the world, that which is a negative, and we turned, like a revolutionary, to positive. What was our song this morning? Focus on the good. Focus on the affirmative prayer, and that we can begin to create our lives from there. But the next level of evolution we're being called to is to be the channel for that very spirit to move through us, that it's not separate from us at all. And that this is the next level, which we begin to let go of making things happen and being the doer. We begin, and it goes on to say, it's not so much an evolutionary level as a level of recognition, of remembrance, of returning. So we're returning back home. And that this wave of momentum is alive, and it has already arisen within our hearts and minds. It's just inviting us to remember again who we are as love, what we are as Christ, and how we serve as the extension of that love. And so this is the line that I've been chewing on. In truth, you have never succeeded at being anything but the presence of love. Say that with me. In truth, I have never succeeded at being anything but the presence of love. One more time. In truth, I have never succeeded at being anything but the presence of love. Can you see how that might be true? I'm like, well, wait a second. Was I a successful daughter? Was I a successful sister? Was I successful in my earlier career? Am I successful in this career? And here we are in church. You know, Michael Beckwith would say, whatever you're doing, including church, your work, your relationship, it's just a smokescreen for your awakening. It's just your classroom, your curriculum. It's kind of occupying the ego mind, thinking it's doing something to distract it so spirit can get in. Sometimes we have to do a little bit of that, do we not? And so the idea, though, is how do we measure success? How do we measure success in our lives? Is it how many likes we get on our social media posts? Well, we might have a little conversation about that in a bit. But is that truly success? And how has that dynamic led us to be looking outside of ourselves for approval or for acknowledgement of some sort of success in our lives? Is success measured by the amount of money that we may have in our bank account, our retirement funds? Whether we own a home or 2 or 3? I'll never forget when I had been a paralegal, and I knew that was not my place. How did I know this? It was back when they had offices, not cubes, and I had an office. And I remember shutting my door, and my head just dropped on my desk because I couldn't stay awake doing what I was being asked to do, which was to read endless documents and then summarize them for attorneys. And I'm like, I really belong with people. I belong out in the world. I think I'm a salesperson. And so I literally begged for a sales job. I begged so well. I skipped over the entry-level position, and they made me a manager of other people. I didn't know the company, and I had never done sales before. And I remember I went in this big region, and I took a notebook, and all I did was go meet with people and take notes of their complaints. People just wanted to complain. I took their complaints. Then I called my own 800 number to try to, because I didn't know what the answers were, and I called as if I were a customer, asking the very questions my customers were asking. And then I went back to them and I gave them the answers and I helped them out. And then later, I learned that people just wanted to talk with me. I don't know why. And they would tell me things that I'm thinking, I don't think I need to know this, like a little TMI. But I listened, and in a way, I was being present. I was loving them. I didn't know how to be successful. I was new. So I did what I could do. I was present, I listened, and I had compassion and love for them. Do you know I was salesperson of the year that year? I'm like, how did that happen? I don't even know what I'm selling. And so was I successful because I knew all the details of the products that I was selling? Was I successful for that reason? What was the metric that made it successful? Love. Love. As we approach the next couple weeks, as we approach this time as a spiritual community, as our board and our leadership and our staff and our community looks at where we are at this juncture in our community, and we have a community forum next week, a little bit different, where we're engaging our community. We want to know what you want, what you'd love, how you want to be, what Unity Renaissance is, and how it is going to be in the world. I'm inviting the community to bring its love. And for us to love, and for me as the leader, and for us who are in leadership to remember that the greatest metric of all is not necessarily butts in the seat, or not necessarily money in the bank, but it is the degree and the depth to how we love one another. And that when we focus on love, individually in our lives, in our community as Unity Renaissance, in our primary relationships in our lives, in our work play, however that is defined in our lives, let us remember that the highest metric is love, and it is the only thing that we will ever be successful at. I've been really contemplating this, and I invite you to get your phone out, take a picture of this, and in truth, consider, have I ever succeeded at anything else but love? I think it's an important question for us to answer in our own lives, and that perhaps by doing so, we will become aligned with love. Now, the way of mastery is attributed to Yeshua ben Joseph, who is written about extensively in the Bible and in other material, but something that at many weddings we speak. You know, it was even in our reading. So I like the way of mastery because sometimes it reframes some things that are familiar from biblical teaching. And love is patient, and yes, love is kind. And so this comes from 1 Corinthians. We speak this a lot at the weddings, you know, that we facilitate. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. And it always protects and always trusts, hopes and preserves and perseveres. But before all of that, it says, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, Remember this part? If I don't have love, if I speak in tongues, if I'm channeling, if I think I'm healing people, all of that, but I don't have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardships that I may boast, but don't have love, I gain nothing. Consider with me this week, in truth, have I ever succeeded at anything other than being the presence of love? Last week I asked you, in the light of the Declaration of Independence, what are you dedicated to? What's your declaration? What are you declaring independence from? And what are you declaring your dependence upon? When I first came to an idea of a higher power, my first declaration was that I offered everything to it. I offer myself to thee, to God, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. This is the third step prayer. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. I had to get my bloated nothingness out of the way so that the love could channel through me, return me to my divine identity that I could recognize, remember, and live from again. Our Declaration of Independence had many divine ideals embedded in it that we discussed last week. And in our little gathering here for the Way of Mastery, I reminded our community there of the dedication and the covenant of our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who said this: we hereby dedicate ourselves, our time, our money, all we have, and all we expect to have to the spirit of truth, and through it to the society of silent unity. It being understood and agreed that that spirit of truth will render unto us an equivalent for this dedication in peace of mind, health, body, wisdom, understanding, love, life, abundant supply, all things necessary to meet every want without our making any of these the object of our existence. When we mistake our source for person, places, things, conditions in the world, we actually make them the idol. We place it before God, and it's a false idol, and it will disappoint. But love will never fail. Love will never fail us. And so I stand here, dedicated like the Fillmores, like our founders, like those in AA, like I'm all in. I'm wholly committed. I'm going to dance this dance with the light. And I'm going to let the light of love lead me, lead this community, lead my life, my relationships, my finances, lead everything from here. When we say unity is practical, this is the most practical thing that we can do. The world will say it's impractical. The world will say, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with it? But we're going to be it. And as we be it, our world shifts and changes. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you today. I hope it was meaningful and useful to you, as my contemplation to me has been. Because I have been at a juncture where I am like, how do I measure success at this community? I'm at the 2-year mark, right? Oh my gosh, 2 years being here. I think it's today. I do. I think it is today. Yeah. So I've been reflective of it. Where have I tried to be the maker and the doer and forgot to love? Where did I forget to see you because I was so busy? Where did I forget because of an anxiety or a feeling like perhaps falling short in some areas? Has anybody ever felt that way? And you know what? Sitting in here, there's been almost an hour of opportunities to have been disturbed, because this is our smokescreen for awakening. How are we going to be love right now? Right now, and right now. When we come back next week, we're going to look at the dynamic of how the shadow works, and we're going to see how prayer transforms and transmutes that shadow. And that is our unity practice. And I'm just going to say again, I invite you to join us on Friday and Saturday for Everyone Prays. We're going to also incorporate in that something new where we'll do prayer partnerships for those who are willing to do that. And we'll carry that on with us as we move forward and begin that network amongst the entire community, if you desire. I love you. I bless you. I thank God for you. Thank you.